Guys, we've always had issues with Russia. That's just been the reality. I think in my lifetime, it's always been that. I was born in '86, so my experience is probably the '90s more so, late '90s, so when I actually recognized Russia as an entity, let's say. Yeah, I think we've always had issues in my lifetime. It doesn't surprise me that they're still trying, they're still out here talking crazy. No, it doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. Apparently, Putin is basically publicly making fun of Trump, which is kind of expected because he knows what Trump said during, his election cycle. Let's say, oh yeah, we're going to end the kerfuffle. Let's say on day one. That can't happen. I think anyone who thought that could actually happen, that's a problem, bro. Like, you have to understand the difference between political speech and actual reality. And I think a lot of the times, CNN specifically is one of these entities that dwell on what he's saying rather than what he's doing, right? But either way, guys, let's go and jump into this immediately. The Russian media pokes fun at Trump for not ending the Ukraine war on the first day in office. Guys. Either way, let's go and check it out. This is a suggestion via a channel member, guys.
The US president has issued new remarks that raise questions about his relationship with Russia's president. Donald Trump said Vladimir Putin is ruining Russia by continuing its war on Ukraine, adding that he'd consider new sanctions if Moscow doesn't try to make a deal. CNN's Fred Pleiken has the details for us.
All right, guys, real quickly. So when it comes to the sanctions, I think most of our sanctions are going to be basically backed around the U.S. dollar. We for the most part, weaponized our U.S. dollar against Russia, along with oil. So these are the two things. Also, the reason why Russia, China, Brazil, India, I think South Africa, are trying to come together and create somewhat of a BRICS currency that's not so much a fiat currency, but it's actually based off of like raw natural like minerals. It's the reason why a couple of months ago, gold prices were basically shooting up. Silver was also starting to do very well, along with platinum, because they're trying to build a currency that the U.S. cannot punish another country for if they don't like what they're doing. That's what's basically going on. But either way,
if Moscow doesn't try to make a deal, CNN's Fred Pleiken has the details for us.
Just hours after President Donald Trump's inauguration, Kremlin-controlled TV already poking fun at the new U.S. leader and Trump's pledge to end the war in Ukraine on day one.
Are they playing that music?
In the U.S., they call the expression "stop the war in 24 hours" a bright example of Trump's hyperbole, the host says. But Trump himself says,
yeah. I think anyone on all sides should be able to kind of admit that that's the case. Trump talks a lot, right? But not every single thing that he says is actually right, like on board, guys. But either way,
he intends to keep his promise and that his meeting with Putin is soon ahead. The tone on state TV very different than before the inauguration, like in December when Trump had criticized the Biden administration's decision to allow Ukraine to use U.S.-supplied ATACMS missiles to fire into Russia. More absolutely sensational news, the anchor said then. Donald Trump condemned the use of ATACMS for attacks on the territory of Russia. Shortly after taking office,
I agree with that. Like, we shouldn't. I am one of these individuals in the camp of saying that, guys, we pay too much in taxes, and if we have that much money to basically fund some other random country's war, then I think that we're paying too much in taxes. So in this case here, should we have gotten involved to the point of actually handing over missiles? It wasn't just us; it was also Great Britain. So keep that in mind here. There are two individuals in here supplying things to basically point at Russia.
President Trump, who claims to have good relations with Putin, appeared surprisingly critical of the Russian leader.
Zelensky wants to make a deal. Okay. I don't know if Putin does. He might not. I don't
know. No, he doesn't.
He should make a deal. I think he's destroying Russia by not making a deal. I think Russia's going to be in big trouble.
But Putin unfazed, showing whom he considers to be his most important ally and friend, Chinese leader Xi Jinping, even after Xi took the rare step of calling Trump shortly before the inauguration. Xi and Putin now making clear in a virtual summit, China and Russia will stand together no matter what Trump does. These connections are self-sufficient and independent of domestic political factors and the current global situation, Putin said. This year, I am ready, together with you, to elevate Chinese-Russian relations to a new level, she added, to counter external uncertainties by preserving stability and resilience of Chinese-Russian relations. As Ukraine continues to lose ground in many sectors of the vast front line, Ukraine's president, speaking at the Davos Economic Forum, appeared concerned about whether Kiev's allies can achieve what Ukraine would consider a just peace.
No.
If there are weak guarantees,
A just
uncertainty,
peace?
only words, then
No.
you will only get words from Russia, and they will come back with war again. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Berlin.
Yeah, guys, there is no such thing as just peace in this. Let me hold on, guys.
Donald
Yeah, there is no such thing as like a just peace in this scenario. You're going to have to give up gigantic portions of your country. Right? That's what it is. Because I don't honestly think that we should be getting into this in the first place. You're whatever you have left is what you can basically defend. I think is how that should probably go in this instance here. Unfortunately, you're dealing with an enemy that does not care about your morality. That's what I see. That's what it looks like. And so that's that here, guys. Now, does it surprise me that Russia and China are dealing with each other? No, because both of these countries want nothing more than to absolutely dethrone the U.S. dollar. That's the fact here, guys. All right? Like, if you're basing your currency off the U.S. dollar, or you're trading still internationally within the U.S. dollar in some means, the last thing you want to do is to ever be penalized or punished again for doing what you think is right, referring to the concept of, well, looking at the Russian side of things, at least. You think it's right to go invade someone else's country? Okay, that's weird, right? But if you think it's right, why is it that your currency is now being completely taken away? I think that's the overall dilemma in this instance here. So yeah, these guys have no interest in most likely ever coming back to the U.S. dollar, and they're definitely trying to make it so they can create somewhat of a secondary world currency that can hold its weight just as much as the U.S. dollar, but instead of us backing it off of our military might, they're backing it off of something tangible. Gold.
Trump had insisted that if re-elected, he would end Russia's war in Ukraine on his first day. Well,
He said that.
deadline has come and gone, and the war rages on unchecked.
And the US president was critical of Russian President Vladimir Putin for failing to make a deal to end the fighting. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh reports that Ukrainians are desperate for it to end soon.
Right. The longer this goes, the more they stop caring about the U.S. dollar.
Got a mention here. But hours later, Trump gave reporters his most stark criticism yet of Putin's war.
He should make a deal. I think he's destroying Russia by not making a deal. I think Russia's going to be in big trouble. You take a look at their economy, you take a look at the inflation in Russia. So I would hope, I got along with him great, and, you know, I would hope he wants to make a deal.
He said Europe should almost double its defense spend, and he would meet Putin soon. Trump's words,
That's
long-awaited
loud.
and welcomed here in central Kiev's fog. All the talk of peace deals, the conditions for it, of negotiations, somewhat distant and theoretical from
Air raid
the
sirens.
real dangers people in Kiev here go through every day, the sirens sounding so frequently, and this vast sea of loss. Clearly, so many Ukrainians desperate for peace, but also to see the sacrifice that's made yield some kind of future they can be happy with. As the sea of grief spreads to fresh grass, hope is their only option. Nazar is just back from the recruitment office. Perhaps even in the coming days, he says, Trump should give more information about what he plans to do. But I don't believe in Trump alone. This is such a war that it will not be ended by the actions of one person.
No. Like, they're going to have to be concessions, and you do not want to hear the demands of the actual dominant side here, guys.
Yulia is here to remember her son, Yevgeny, who died fighting 2 years ago. Maybe we'll be given more planes and weapons to win faster, she says. We really hope so. We have great hope that he will help Ukraine. Ukraine's president delivering a gentle dressing down of his European allies in front of their elite in Switzerland.
European leaders should remember these battles involving North Korean soldiers are now happening in places geographically closer to Davos than to Pyongyang.
As his forces fought to hold back Russia here in Toretsk, he reminded the European elite some of its governments were less powerful now than TikTok's algorithm. Trump baiting Putin, Zelensky baiting Europe. Day one and change of the less expected sort is here. There is extraordinary hope voiced by people here in Ukraine, but you get the sense that underneath it, they perhaps feel they have little choice but to try and believe that Donald Trump, with the stark words he had to say, frankly, about the Kremlin's choices in this war, genuinely wants to put pressure on Moscow. But they also know too that their situation on the front line is deteriorating, frankly, daily. Incrementally, yes, but in a steady way that suggests the curve of this war is working not in Kiev's favor. And I think it is that clock that is ticking in the background that will dictate so many of the choices ahead. But it was remarkable to hear Donald Trump exert rhetorically so much pressure on the Kremlin head in his first comments since coming to office. Nick Payton.
All right, guys. All right. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I mean, you're asking for Russia to come to the table to stop this, but why would they? They're winning. I'm not trying to be super callous here, but like, let's just think logically here. What can you do to make Russia stop? Nothing, right? Like, I mean, they've now not had access to the U.S. dollar or really pushing their oil in any meaningful manner for such a long time now. Okay, they are a gigantic supplier of platinum. Keep this in mind, Russia. But they've been without it for so long. Do you really think that they care to come back to the umbrella or the shade of it, knowing that at any time, if they do anything, you're just going to take the U.S. dollar back from them? Bro, it was not a great idea ever. Listen, we've gone a really long time, all right? A really long time. Russia's too powerful to be playing around with this, like this in this context here. That's just the reality of the situation. Like, why under any circumstance would you utilize our US dollar as a weapon? Why? By doing that, now look at them. They're trying to create their own currency. Is it going to work? No. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. But the fact is they're trying. That means that they're sick of it. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired of you playing with their money. That's what's going on here. I don't see specifically why Russia would come to the table, unless you're going to say, here, take all of Ukraine. Unless that's the context. I mean, Zelensky is there. Sure, he's an ally. I get that, right? But this is a losing battle unless you want to go head first into the Ukraine with all of our military might, which then in return, China. We're talking about WW3, guys. Right? So, no thank you. No thank you on the WW3 notion, guys. No thank you. All right. But either way, guys, listen, let me know in the comments what you guys think. I do think that Russia's economy is suffering. I think that it's going to continue to suffer, specifically under the leadership that they have had and seems to most likely, let's just call him the king of Russia. Let's just do that. Either way, yeah, their economy is going to be suffering, guys. It is definitely, it's going to continue to suffer because we're not going to budge at all in terms of allowing them having access in any meaningful way to the U.S. dollar. We're not going to allow them to push their products across the globe like that, to us specifically. So it is what it is, guys. Life. How can we solve this issue? I don't know, but I'm sure smarter people than I and you potentially have sat down and thought about this, and you're just going to have to let Russia have it, regardless of how it looks. This is also why Trump just said blatantly, you need to strengthen your defenses, Europe. I'm telling you. But either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. The fact that you just made it to the end of the video says a whole lot, actually. We have a couple other channels. MrLboyd Music, MrLboyd Movie Reacts, along with MrLboyd Discusses, where I just generally speak about the things that specifically matter to me. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys later.